So we're gonna do a quick day in the life. Today is kind of a crazy day, a loud day, because Alex is having a friend come over. In case you're new here, hi, I'm Ann. I'm a single mom of Alex, and we have been full-time traveling for almost 4 years now, and we've been in Mexico for over 3 years. We spent a little over a year and a half in Merida, Yucatan, and so far a little over a year and a half in San Cristobal de las Casas, Chiapas. Although that will be ending shortly. More on that in a future video. So I started the day dropping off some laundry and grabbing what I thought was gonna be a quick treat, but the vibe was so nice though that I stayed. That was 180 pesos, which is like $10 for 6 cookies, 2 little pie things, my coffee, and then a banana bread thing for Alex. What? It's hard to tell on the video, but I use a 3-point touch for controlling, especially a large bottle like that. My right hand, my left hand, and my belly. Okay, so while we're waiting for Alex's friend to come over, I thought I would do a quick chit chat on cost of living in Mexico, because this is one of those, it's super, super tricky. People tend to think that Mexico is a magical land where everything is cheaper. And sometimes it feels that way, but the costs and the affordability of Mexico comes from having a much more simple lifestyle, having a much more simple business lifestyle, right? So not just the customers necessarily having a simple life, but businesses view the world differently and provide services that are needed without going crazy, without going all out, if that makes sense. So I'll give you an example. Maybe 2-3 days ago, Alex and I got our teeth cleaned here in San Cristobal, and it cost us combined 700 pesos. Okay, which is less than $40. No, I'm not a dental expert or anything, but generally speaking, it felt the same as the US, but there were a couple of differences that I do want to mention when it comes to dental care. And one is that in the US, to get a dental cleaning, which I've done a handful of times, right? There's always a bib, well, anything dental related. They put a bib on you, and often glasses, right? I'll get the little clear glasses so that nothing sprays too much, because the dental world is a messy world. For our dental cleaning, we did not get a bib, we did not get glasses. So that means that the water and the whatever else she's using sprayed all over my face and my body. Now I say all over, right? We're talking droplets, we're talking little bits, nothing major. Those are little things that really, I don't know if it happens anywhere in the US, but it's definitely not prevalent in the US, right? Like at least 90% maybe of US dentists will always give you a clean bib, clean glasses, and those little details, the details of giving you the clean glasses, the clean bib, that cost money. That's part of the overhead. That's part of the extra that you might be paying for. In Merida, Alex had to have some teeth removed. Till becoming a parent, I never realized how prevalent it is for people to have more teeth than the 32 or whatever that the average person has. I had no idea. But Alex has extra teeth. So in the US, he had 2 teeth removed before we moved to Mexico. And then in Mexico, he had, I think it was 1 more tooth removed. And the difference between the two, right? So both locations were at a pediatric location, because Alex hates the dentist. Both locations had a TV to try to get Alex to not focus on what was happening. The huge difference is in the US, the TV is literally on the ceiling. So as the kid is laying down, he can look directly at the TV without ever seeing what else was happening around him. In the US, they made like a curtain at his nose, so that whatever was happening at his mouth, he couldn't see. He just focused on the TV ahead. He didn't see what was happening on his mouth. They did the laughing gas. They put the topical cream or whatever so that you don't feel the injection. Then they gave him the injection, which Alex, it was as if he didn't have a 20-foot needle in his mouth. Like, it was beautiful to watch how Alex did not react to this in the US. And then of course, they pull the tooth out super easy. In Merida, they didn't have a way to cover. They did not have laughing gas. They did, of course, have the topical cream that they put on him. They had the injection, but because he could see it all, there's something magic that happens, right? When you can see something, you also feel something. So then he felt it. So then it was a much more upsetting scenario.
It wasn't like I wasn't like screaming in pain though.
Or were you? So this is not to say that the US is doing it better. In fact, what Mexico does now really reminds me of when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, we didn't have TVs. I've never seen anyone put like a curtain below my eyes so that I was not, fully aware of what might be happening in my mouth. That's never happened to me before. So we're gonna call that a newfangled thing that we're doing in the US for kids now. But in Mexico, they're not doing those things. But every one of those things, right? Getting the TV on the ceiling versus having it eye level, that's an extra cost. Having an extra curtain, bib, whatever you want to call it, over your mouth, having the laughing gas. And so it's less that Mexico is magically inexpensive and much more that it's logically less expensive. Kind of makes sense? And in the category of rentals, which is such a huge topic, because honestly, the second you are an expat or an immigrant, the second you're an American coming to Mexico for a rental property, we just skew the numbers so much without meaning to. It just happens. I don't even blame the landlords, to be honest. Like we're in a world where they're trying to figure out how to deal with us, we're trying to figure out how to deal with them, and it's this where's the sweet spot moment? The thing I would like to say is, can you find, let's say it's just you don't have any kids, you just need a room and a private bath. Like that's all you need. You don't mind furnishing the location, right? Getting a new bed, getting a way to cook in this tiny room. Like you don't mind doing all that. You just want a super simple basic life. There are places in Mexico where it's just an empty room with a bathroom, right? Window door that will rent for like 1,000 pesos a month, which is less than $60 US a month, right? And that simple life does exist here, right? And by the way, the place that I recently saw included internet. I do not know the quality of the internet, but it has some internet. It includes electricity. It includes water, like tap water. It does not have warm water, so they don't have a way to heat the water, which at least in San Cris, kind of mandatory. You might find that a big deal. But this apartment is not available for expats. Karen was the one that found this apartment, and she was talking with them. They were like, oh, no, we don't have a room. No room for you, politely. And then she saw the room out of the window. She's like that room right there? And what it basically comes down to is when a family is, and this applies in the US, when you are renting out a room, when you're renting out a property that is, especially if it's attached to your home, you care much more about who's going to be living there. And Americans are known for we're just much more picky. We want the hot water. If you tell us there's internet, we want it to be good enough to handle all of our needs. You know, if you tell us that you're providing the water, we'll complain when it runs out, because the tap water kind of system, infrastructure in Mexico, very, very different from what we have in the US. And like, we're just a bother. We're a bother. And so this family was not willing to rent out this 1,000 peso, room to an American or somebody they perceived as American, because they wanted a little extra income, yes, just 1,000 pesos a month from a local, from someone they connected with and understood. So if you go on Facebook and you see these homes that are super, super affordable, right? 2,000, 3,000 pesos a month, some of them might be for you, but a lot of them might not be. So just keep that in mind. But also, for example, this 1,000 peso place, which I was able to get a tour of, I would never rent, because from a security viewpoint, now granted, this is maybe the mother and the military member in me, I want 2 doors before you have access to my room. 2 doors, and this place had 1 door. It was right on the main street. I want more protection than that. And for a house that has more protective features, you're going to pay more. Does this kind of make sense? So Mexico is more affordable, yes, than the US, 100%. But I do sometimes worry that people think it's this magical, I'll just get a place for $500 US. Totally possible, but the $500 US is not gonna give you the same place that you might have in the US, because we're not in the US. Same for I got my haircut the other day, just a trim. I'm very low maintenance, and it cost me 200 pesos. Fun fact, last year, literally I get my haircut about once a year. Last year it cost me 150 pesos, and in Merida it cost me 70 pesos. I don't know if it's inflation, but in the US, a haircut for a woman, they'll usually wash your hair, then they'll cut it, and then they'll blow dry it. That's usually all part of that. What I got was spraying just the bottom of my hair. Now, again, I just wanted a trim. I didn't want anything super fancy, but they sprayed the bottom of my hair with water, cut it, and then they blow dried the bottom of my hair so the tips aren't wet. So for that, I paid 200 pesos. Do we see the distinction? Do we see, it's the little details, right? And washing somebody's entire head will take more water, product, shampoo, maybe some conditioner, etc. That if I wanted those things, I'm sure they could have provided it, but the price of my haircut would have naturally gone up, right? Depends on the experience you're looking for when you go to get a haircut. Restaurants, I always call it the abuelita effect here, but I can go today to a restaurant and order huevos rancheros. Now, most places that I go, huevos rancheros is a really simple breakfast, usually with 3 eggs, some kind of bean, some kind of cheese, and a tostado, like a fried tortilla underneath. Very simple thing. But sometimes at the same restaurant, mind you, I could go to the same restaurant and today get a traditional basic huevos rancheros. Tomorrow, they might make the sauce on it spicy, just because. And the next day, they might add peas to it, just because. And I think part of it is a necessity concept. The chef might have an ideal that when somebody orders huevos rancheros, maybe they want to always add peas to it. But maybe today they ran out of peas. Or maybe today they didn't feel like making the same sauce they always make. So they're like, you know what? Today we're adding a little spice to it. We're just gonna add a little something to it. In the US, that would be, people would complain. People would have an issue with it, and we would demand that the chef always make the exact same thing, the same way every day, no matter what. And when you want, if you want that level of uniformity every single day, there's overhead in that. There's overhead in that because they have to make sure they have peas available. They have to make sure they have that same sauce with all the different ingredients available. And that causes overhead, which causes the price to increase. Yeah, anyway, so I didn't mean to go quite so deep, but I do think that people have an unrealistic expectation for costs. In Mexico, they want everything to be cheaper. The affordability is not just this magic, everything is cheaper. It's more that it's a simpler lifestyle here. It's a simpler, more spontaneous, more magical lifestyle. And that magic, that spontaneity, that simplicity means you won't always get the same thing all the time. Variety is wondrous. Okay, Alex's friend is not here yet, but I just realized I really don't have a lot in the house for him to eat. So luckily I live in a very small town where I can quickly go, grab some fruits, grab some drinks, and well, at least have the basics down. Very glad to live in a walkable city because honestly, traffic here is not always the best. We have tons of small roads, they're all one way. Traffic is something I see quite often. So the fruit cost me 163 pesos, and this cost me 56 pesos for 2 drinks. If you're curious, your most affordable fruit will probably be bananas, mangoes, and like rambutan. Rambutan. And your medium expensive is like an apple. So a lot of times I tend to buy 3 bananas at a time, and they're almost always less than 5 pesos. Obviously it depends on the weight. Mangoes are usually comparable, maybe a little more expensive than bananas. Apples, generally speaking, if I buy 5 apples, it's approximately 50 pesos here. Although, again, depending on size, I've paid as high as 65 pesos for 5 apples. And probably the most expensive fruit are things like dragon fruits, grapes, and peaches. 1 peach is probably 20 pesos, give or take. 1 dragon fruit can be 80 pesos, again, depending on the weight. I think a kilo of grapes is like 120 pesos. Something like that. Most frequently, I'm probably getting apples, bananas, and mangoes. Although, when I'm in the mood to splurge. Okay, friend has arrived. Playdate has officially started. Looking at the lack of Legos in this house as we've been prepping to pack. And of course, pizza is mandatory on a Playdate. No matter what I say, they always give me these sauces that we never use. If I don't force the kids to go out for ice cream or something, they'll literally just sit there all day long. Okay, gracias. So this is a desk that I had made here in San Cris by a carpenter that I found. Really nice guy named Jose Luis. It's a simple style, but it's a style that you don't really find here in San Cris. And so Vice traveling somewhere outside of San Cris to find a desk, I found a carpenter and had him make it. I think this desk cost me 2,100 pesos to have made. So worth it. God. My friend is out of town right now, so we're just putting it in the living room. Hopefully it's near wherever she wants it to be because that's where it is. Looks like the cat approves of the desk.
Get two of the same. Black goes first.
Without thinking it, like without.
Every time we leave a location, the number one thing we always miss are the people, the friends. I love hearing Alex and his friends talk late at night.
Oh, it's not cute.